Thank you very much. A little additional information. There's these talent networks, they're actually going to expire at the end of this year, but as Catherine will graciously admit, they just issued a new NGO. They're a new grant opportunity for all of the talent networks. And in addition, the state has put an additional $2.7 million in these talent centers of excellence, and which are going to be focused on education and training people in three major areas: advanced manufacturing, healthcare, transportation, logistics, and distribution. I got it right. So those NGOs are out there. Just don't compete against us for advanced manufacturing. So now we're going to move into another section of the program where we have a program where you're going to learn a lot about Megaforce. There's a panel discussion, and to introduce the panel is our provost of NJIT, Dr. Fadi Deek. Dr. Fadi Deek, I always say he's Mr. NJIT or Dr. NJIT now. He got his Bachelor of Science in Computer Science here. He got his Master's of Science in Computer Science. He's got his Doctorate of Science in Computer Science, Computer and something science. He was department head in one of the departments here, and now he's provost and doing a wonderful job for NJIT. Please welcome Dr. Fadi Deek.
Thank you so much, Ray. Good morning, everyone. Morning, students. It's good to have you here. North Bergen STEM High School, right? We need many more of such high schools. I know there is one in the making, and I recognize some faces in the back who are here and will be here again to talk to us about the creation of yet another STEM high school in the northern part of the state. I don't want to blow that cover yet. So, good morning again, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a great pleasure for me to be with you today. As Ray said, I am NJIT's Chief Academic Officer, and I endorse Megaforce. Will that work for you, Gail? I don't know how far you can take it, but for whatever it's worth, I endorse Megaforce. It is an important initiative, and we are happy to be leading. We are happy to participate. As we heard throughout the morning, as this state and this country work to bring back manufacturing to this country, they are having some difficulties, and that's a prepared workforce. But it's good to see that many of the rising generation would be interested in well-paying jobs, and many of our educators are interested in creating schools that will, in fact, train them. NJIT is a STEM university. That term has been defined, of course, many times, but let me repeat it. STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And we are happy to produce thousands of graduates every year in the STEM disciplines. And in fact, we specialize in producing highly skilled technologists. That T is probably the biggest problem for manufacturers in this state. So I'm privileged to introduce to you the moderator and the panelists who will give you more detail about Megaforce. I think this is the time to invite them up here, I believe, right? Starting with Ian Trammell. Please join us, Ian, as the Executive Director of Megaforce, the statewide dual education program for advanced manufacturing. He'll sit here to my left. Ian has held several roles in both public and private education. He has spent the last year working to promote and seek investment and participation in the Megaforce mission all across New Jersey with industry, educators, lawmakers, and potential manufacturing partners. Gilbert Grati, please join us up here, Director of Engineering for Stryker in Mahwah, New Jersey. Stryker Corporation is a premier medical technology company with a range of products in orthopedics and a presence in other medical specialties. As you also heard earlier, Gilbert has been an active member of Megaforce for 2 years, and he currently serves as Vice Chair of the Advisory Board. Joanne Mitchell, please join us, as Senior Project Leader for Sandvik in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Sandvik Coromant is the #1 supplier to the metalworking industry of tools and know-how for competitive machining, metalworking products, and metal cutting. Joanne also serves as a lecturer at Bergen Community College. She has been a driving force behind Megaforce as well for the last 2 years, and she currently serves as chair of the advisory board. Sam Lieber, one of our own, please join us. Assistant professor in engineering technology at NJIT. He has been active in reinvigorating NJIT's advanced manufacturing program with a focus on mechatronics. Sam also owns his own engineering consulting firm. He has been a great supporter of Megaforce and its curriculum. Patricia Fenn, please join us. Assistant Vice President for Continuing and Professional Education at Ocean County College. She's been involved in higher education for over 30 years in various executive positions. Patricia and Ocean County College have been also valuable partners in the implementation of the Megaforce dual education program across New Jersey. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished panel. It's yours, Ian. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here again. I have to put my microphone up. It's on. It just wasn't high enough, Ray. I don't know why that is. You know, after listening to everyone's presentations today, there's a common theme that I'm picking up. I'm not sure if you are or not, but there's this idea of collaboration and partnership. And I don't think in today's environment, whether you're in education or manufacturing or in public service, government, we can be really effective unless we're partnering with other parts of society, other parts of culture, other parts of manufacturing even. And so that's really the theme that's developing for me today as we're talking about how to prepare talent for meeting today's industry needs. And I was enjoying Joanne's presentation about how things have been changing. She had that great image of 1931 and another of 1950 and now 2000, I think it was 10, the Sandvik picture was dated, or 2015 rather. And you know, I have finding that to be true in my own life. I recently got married about 6 weeks ago, so you know, there's many changes with that, but more interestingly, I think for our point today is I suddenly find myself with a stepdaughter who's 11. And life, I haven't even told the story yet. You must be parents. You must be parents. And you know, life is so different now for children than it was when I was 11. When I was 11, my parents had a hard time keeping track of us because we would leave as soon as we were free from any household responsibilities. We'd go out playing. We lived in Oceanport, which is right along the Shrewsbury River. No one knows Oceanport, but everybody knows Monmouth Park Racetrack. That's on the edge of Oceanport. And so our house was right on the river. So we had a sailboat in the backyard. They never knew where we were. We would play with the reeds, make bows and arrows. I'm lucky I have both of my eyes. And so we would always be out doing stuff. I didn't have a cell phone until after I graduated from college. The 11-year-old has a cell phone. And God forbid someone can't find the charger. She went to school, her first day back at school a few weeks ago. What did she come home with? A Chromebook. Now, you would think that the Chromebook would be used for, you know, looking at textbooks, doing little philosophical surveys on esoteric questions. No, she watches iCarly on the Wi-Fi network. And she's always attached to it. So things have very much changed. I was happy to hear about all of the things I had heard about the maker spaces and the Makers Day with the partnership with the libraries. And Sophia will be going to that this year. But, you know, it's exciting anytime a kid goes outside. I don't know if you students are that way. I don't know if you're very plugged in or you guys do go outside and play, but the other day someone came to the door, some of the neighborhood kids, and asked Sophia to go out and play, and she did. and we celebrated and locked the screen door. So it's just this whole idea of this change going on, and how do we reach out to students who maybe are experiencing the same things, the same kind of cultural influences, the same lifestyle as my stepdaughter Sophia, maybe some of you young people, and how do we engage them in a way that will help them to be productive members of society and be part of the economic force here in New Jersey? And so that's what we're hoping to talk about with the panel today. I have personal relationships with everyone on the panel. I thank Dr. Fadi Deek for introducing all of us. We're hoping for this to be a casual conversation because it's far more entertaining for you and interesting, I think. And it's also going to be informative as hopefully we share some of our own experiences, not just the facts and figures, which we've done a great job of presenting today, but also some of our personal insights and some anecdotes that we might have based on our own experiences with our work. You know, I went to Sandvik not too long ago, and it's like entering that TV show, you know How It's Made? Did you ever see that? I love that show. And you don't think about all of these things, you know, how do you get an aluminum baseball bat? Someone's got to make it. And Sandvik has the tools to create those sorts of things. So when you go into the space, as you saw in the picture, it's just unbelievably clear, spacious, light. You could eat off the floors, literally. I am surprised they don't make you wear booties when you walk in. That's how beautiful it is. Stryker is another example of a company that Megaforce has partnered with because of the way they treat their employees, because of the high-tech atmosphere that we enter into. And so, you know, just be mindful that these are the kind of companies that are the future and that will be successful and continue to be competitive as we're talking today. And Sam Lieber, of course, has been a great help with us as we move forward with the Megaforce curriculum that's being implemented in 9 different counties across the state. And Pat Fenn, we asked her especially because she's very much an expert in implementation of workforce development programs, and she's from Ocean County College. She's been absolutely fantastic. And one of the things I like about Pat, and one of the reasons that I asked her today on a personal level, is because she's never afraid to give me some critique, some suggestions about what we can do better. And you know, those are the sorts of real partnerships that you trust the other people involved, and that's what we need more and more of. And so let's just start the roundtable here. Let's start this panel by just talking about a little bit how manufacturing is changing in New Jersey. And I don't mean sort of the black and white to the color, and we know it's becoming more and more high-tech, but how is sort of the soul of manufacturing changing, if at all, in New Jersey? And I ask either Gib or Joanne to talk a little bit about that first.
Thank you, Ian. My excellent co-chair and partner in making many, many things, very high-tech things that we put in our bodies, has asked me to start. And the question is an interesting one about how the soul of manufacturing has changed. Whether manufacturing has a soul or not, that may be a discussion for a different forum, but how the heart of manufacturing has changed, I don't think it has. The tools that we use have changed, but the intent to build something that brings value to other people has never changed. If you ask me why do we make stuff either to solve a problem or make somebody happy. And I know we in manufacturing, all of us here, solve a lot of problems from day to day. I don't think that has changed. And as far as making people happy with the products that we produce and the products that our customers produce, yes, absolutely. We are fulfilling a need. We are making people live better lives through the tools that we all produce. I don't know if that answers the question. I will turn it to Gib.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the discussion about the tools, right? I've been in manufacturing in New Jersey for 30 years. I remember when the first CMM machine rolled into the plant I was working in back in 1986, 87. And shortly after we got it, we realized we're going to need a program. we had somebody do it for us, but we had to have somebody on staff. So I see that the tools have changed. They've driven a lot of different needs for different roles. I think the biggest thing I've seen in the soul manufacturing, if you get away just from technology, is the expectation of continuous improvement. It's not something that we've talked about. Well, we talked about problem solving, which is near and dear to my heart, but I think there's a greater and greater expectation for continuous improvement. If you think about the tools that we use every single day, the ability for us to move into automation, the ability for us to do sampling, to get tighter and tighter tolerances, tighter and tighter capabilities, you have to have a fairly good continuous improvement strategy and structure to do that. You don't just put that on your engineering team. So our expectation is that operators can be heavily engaged in continuous improvement. To me, that's probably one of the biggest changes I've seen.
Better, faster, cheaper.
Absolutely.
And so then talk a little bit about what advanced manufacturing is, because I keep hearing the term, but I don't know how well we've gone into determining what is advanced manufacturing as opposed to manufacturing.
You know, to me, I think of parts with a special mission, products that have a special mission. You think about aerospace, you think about automotive systems, you think about the medical industry that I'm in. And then the tools that are used to make them, right? Automated solutions, mechanical solutions, and the inspection methods. If you look at the criticality of tolerancing components that need to make together, machines, that to me is advanced manufacturing, where the mission of the product, I guess, if I fall back on, is highly critical, and therefore you've got to rely on processes that are very stable and the ability to be able to verify that without.
So in order to be able to do that, how has the need for the professional workforce changed? And I'm using that word in a very conscious way. One of the things that Joanne has raised awareness in us about with Megaforce, especially the advisory board, is that it's not enough to talk about the people that do their work in workforce development. Sorry, Gail caught my eye. Those pearls caught my eye. Let me start again here. One of the things that we were discussing was about workers, and that's the way we're describing people that would go into advanced manufacturing. One of the things that Joanne brought up with us is it's not enough to talk about someone as a worker. That doesn't go far enough in terms of the people you're trying to attract. Instead, you should talk about professionals or colleagues. And maybe Joanne could say a word about that, and then maybe we could go down the line and hear what is the difference, for the sake of education and manufacturing, the difference between a professional and a worker.
My colleagues at Sandvik Cormont and my colleagues in our customer base and our education base are all professionals. No matter what skill set they are employing, they have a dedication to the customer and to the craft to produce the product that makes modern life possible. It is more than coming to work every day. Robots work, people think, and everybody on our team, no matter what position they hold in the organization, is part of that team as a professional. Some of us are machine operators that implement programs that are designed by CAM programmers and engineers who have worked with salespeople and marketing people to build the product that we see a demand for in the marketplace. All of us together, no matter where we sit on the organization chart, are part of that solution. And we all rely on each other to contribute everything we have to make this happen. Because we are working for people like Stryker, who are producing parts to replace parts and people that have worn out. We're working with aerospace manufacturers every day to work with people who are putting lives in equipment at 32,000 feet at 300 miles an hour. Gib is correct. There is no margin for error. There is no room for just somebody coming to work and punching a clock.
We are all in. We are invested in it. We develop our skills. We learn from each other, and we teach each other. It's not old-time manufacturing. It's not black and white. It's not hunched over some kind of a machine, grinding out stuff one at a time. We are high-tech, we are high-speed, and it's the robots who are doing the work. If you looked at the pictures in some of the slides, you saw a lot of people, including our students from Dream It, Do It, standing in front of things that look suspiciously like a computer. Well, that's how those machine tools work. They are computer numerically controlled. And those are the tools that do the work. We tell them what to do.
So Megaforce, for those of you that don't know, is a public-private partnership. It's a partnership between the folks on the left, to my left, all the way down at the end of the table, the educational folks, and it's a partnership between industry. And where everything comes together, it's the nexus, because we believe that in terms of the professionals that we're talking about, that we need to make sure that they have the preparation that they need. So we're industry-led. We have 9 different companies that we work with that make sure that the educators are on the right track. And I'm going to talk to the educators in a second about how what Joanne just said influences the way that we educate people now. But the idea was to take this dual education model from Germany and to implement it here in New Jersey, because we heard from the talk radio folks that there's an awful lot of people coming in on H-1B visas, and it's just not sustainable. It's the experience of a lot of the folks that began Megaforce was that culturally it wasn't always a good fit. It wasn't always a good fit for language. They didn't always want to stay, the folks that were coming over. And so in order to address that, they wanted a system, a process, an entire culture that became homegrown, that we would grow our talent here, the professionals here. And so industry is a major and important part of all of that. And so how then, when we're talking about these professionals, Sam and Pat, how does that change from seeing people doing this manufacturing work from workers to professionals? How does that change the way that we recruit and approach them from the educational standpoint?
Well, the first thing I would say about the difference between workers and professionals, and it kind of goes back to what Joanne showed in that slide from Steve Jobs, is, workers work to live, whereas professionals are living to work. And this is a clear difference because professionals, they own this respective field that they're in, and they want to continue to grow and develop in that respective field from the time they enter high school programs, associate programs, and go through college, but also in the workplace itself in terms of continual training and development and growing a career and being proud to be a manufacturing professional. And as educators, what we try to instill is a foundation in their core, but also that pathway for further growth and development within their profession going on into industry.
I think I'd like to look too at the way that our workforce is being developed as a kind of a mosaic picture. Everybody fits in with everybody else and helps everybody else to continuous grow and that continuous improvement that you spoke about. Community colleges have always been on the forefront of workforce development and cooperation and collaboration. And I think now we take and look at the workers, the professionals, how they mesh together, and how we also cooperate and go out and work with business, other higher education institutions, vocational technical schools, our state governments, our workforce consortiums, and pull that all together to assist people in the workforce, whether they're changing careers, whether they're finding an upward path and an upward mobility, or whether they're seeking to completely change careers and go into something new. I think that with our upcoming workforce and our upcoming students, you're going to see that they're very impatient and they want to be able to do things right away. Any of you with children now will find that out, They want to know why. They want to know why they can't do it. And somebody help me quick. And I think that's what we're looking at today in the workforce, of shaping that mosaic to come together to have one big picture.
Now, I want to talk about Ocean County College for a couple of minutes, because you've got a lot going on down there. In fact, this Wednesday, in 2 days, you're having a manufacturing day event there. Do you want to tell us about that quickly?
Yeah, we felt that we needed to have an employer summit. Ocean County is not the high-tech manufacturing that Northern New Jersey is, but we felt that we needed to get in touch with our employers. So Wednesday evening, we've invited, at a panel discussion, some of our large employers down to some of our small manufacturers. Maybe they only have 3 or 4 workers, but we want to find out, and we want them to discuss with each other what they're actually looking for in an employee. We may have that conception of that they may need CNC training, or they need this or they need that, but we need to affirm that and hear that from them. So for a couple hours, we've networked with Talent Network, New Jersey Manufacturing EP, and we're with the vocational schools and other venues in our area and companies, and Ian is going to moderate that for us. And we're hoping to learn something from each other that night, which I think is extremely important in the way we proceed for the future.
I would say Ocean County College is a great example of how Megaforce is partnering with other, especially in this case, educational groups, educational institutions. And Pat takes me to all the best places. Recently, we went to Viking Yachts. And we experienced their manufacturing process there, which is amazing. You would never believe that they're able to create, a 60, 70-foot yacht within 3-4 weeks. And they create all of the components for their yachts there. The only thing that they don't make there is the electronic equipment like radar, sonar, and the ship-to-shore radios. But everything else is produced right there. And it looks like Viking Yachts is going to be interested in hiring some of the professionals that Ocean County College and Ocean County Vocational Technical Schools produces using the dual education program that we're talking about, this hands-on approach to education where you understand the principles, the philosophy behind things, but then you also get your hands dirty and you do the things in practice that you'll be doing in the workplace. And Pat, talk a little bit about some of the students that you see interested in this kind of an educational approach.
I think some of the students, whether they be right out of high school or even, I also run a summer program with over 1,200 students during the summer, and we've refocused what I call our camps into a lot of the science and technical programs, and you see them coming in with a different view. Although, we still have the basketball and baseball camps, but a lot of them are signing up to learn different facets. You saw the Minecraft, they're all signing up for the computer camps, and when you translate that from that 5th grader that was talked about right on up to the 18-year-old who's coming to college, who may not exactly be sure what they want to do, but know that they need to have employability skills, to the person who may be out of a job coming back, or the person that isn't going fast enough in their job and going forward. I think that there's a whole gamut of people, but with one goal, that they want to improve lifestyles. And they do have they have a demand, and they have an urge to get things done and to learn. One of the things that you'll hear a lot about, and I'm with the federal government and the state, is our non-credit to credit programs, which are very, very important. We may have done certificate programs. Some of my certificate programs are 100 and more hours, and we're going to be transcripting them into what it's worth in the credit area, so that it's always going to be that continuous learning. So it's not a stop at the end of a non-credit course, it's a continuation into that credit area. And again, to learning more and achieving a greater emphasis on the careers.
Sam, what's your experience? Are you seeing the same thing with students that are coming? Because NJIT, obviously, you don't come here, to learn how to be a painter. there's an element of art and design in the work that takes place at NJIT, but obviously a lot of the students are coming here because they're interested in engineering, technology, math, science. Is there a change in the kind of students that are in engineering technology as opposed to other schools in NJIT?
I think we're seeing that a lot of our engineering technology students, they want to be able to directly apply their skill sets in engineering to creating a finished product or process. And that direct, tangible result is what they're looking in the education system, but also when they get out in the field as well. And I think that is, as someone who has in his heart a lot of manufacturing, that's very good to see, that they want to actually see the respective prototype, not just on a computer screen, but actually fully developed throughout the process as well.
Gib actually told me, and I hope he shares the story with us, I'm going to invite him to anyway, about a student who applied from, I think you said it was NJIT, and he had an engineering background, but he didn't want to start as an engineer. Do you remember you told me that great story?
I think I know the one
If
you're
you could
talking about. I
repeat
hope
that,
it's the
that'd be
same
great.
one. So this goes back to the whole image of manufacturing, I think, that what we generally find in a lot of our interviews, because the thing is the Stryker facility in Mahwah has half of the resources there are on the R&D and marketing side. The other half are operations. So when we interview engineers, they might be looking at potential jobs across a different range of employment there. Very often, they know we have a factory, but they're really interested in how we design them. So we get a lot of questions about, even for the specific ops engineering roles that we advertise for, the discussion almost always seems to turn to, okay, but that's pretty cool, but how do I get back up in the front end of this process? And this gentleman was kind of on that same mind. Even to the point of we weren't sure he would quite make it on the shop floor. But we saw something in him, we saw an interest when we walked him through the shop, and there's a certain thing, when you show people a robot, you look at the expression on their face. When you show them people making product, you can tell if they're disinterested or if they suddenly see a spark of wow, that's pretty cool, I'd like to know more about that. He showed that, so we hired him. It was an internship program, actually. About 2 months into it, we had a periodic one-on-one follow-up, and he was extremely grateful for the opportunity because he said, it's something I would have never seen myself doing, it's something I want to continue doing, and how do I get a full-time job here, right? And so that's the kind of success story we're looking for, is that, people come in, they can see what manufacturing has to offer. He also saw something more than just the technology, right? I mean, he saw a technology that was also advancing, right? The way we make them today is not the way we're going to make them 5 years from now. And that was evident to him, right? Even from the things that he worked on. But he also saw an opportunity for his own growth. He saw that there was an engineering career path, things that we do with our employees that say, you can be an individual contributor and still have a career path through this place, or you can become a people manager, and with those options, the technology in front of him, I think he was sold on what advanced manufacturing has to offer.
To segue a little bit, I'd like to talk a little bit about the relationship between manufacturing and education, because at the crossroads is the student, of course, the students that we keep talking about who will be the manufacturing professionals. And I have to say, because this panel trusts each other so much, I think we can have sort of an open dialogue about sort of what has been the case in the past and what is the case presently and where we see all of this going. Because the single most difficult part of my role, and Gail has been sort of a colleague in getting through some of the things, some of the challenges that we've had, but one of the greatest challenges that I've had to deal with is trust, building trust between different partners. You know, educators have often in their mind what needs to be taught. And there's very significant reasons for that posture. And then industry has their immediate needs, which may not have always lined up with what educators think needed to be taught. And so here we find ourselves with 4 other people, other than myself, that are working together. So could you talk a little bit about, maybe Joanne would be good to start this conversation, but talk a little bit about what the past experience is, because I think acknowledging some of the difficulties is important to solving the problem going forward. So Joanne, if you could speak a little bit about some of those disconnects in the past.
I knew there was a reason they put me in the middle. I can speak, I grew up in manufacturing. I actually started in the textile business, and I grew up in the textile business as a little kid. So maybe I'll draw from a long view, Gip, of manufacturing. I've been around people making a product for as long as I can remember. And at this point, that's a pretty long time. I think one of the disconnects is that education has always been important, but a lot of the education that people used to think we needed in manufacturing was not really available in schools, because back in old times, a lot of it was manual. You received your education by watching somebody do something, which wasn't a bad thing, but it's a very slow way to learn something, especially if we've gone from the days of no TVs to one TV, black and white, to I have a TV for each room in the house, including the kitchen and the garage, and of course, the patio must have TV for tailgates that we do at home. So now I have one house, one family, 10 TVs, and maybe for a city kid, New York girl, you might have had one car if you were away from the bus to New Jersey mom of 2 and sister of 4, that everybody has their car in the driveway, and my house looks like a perpetual party. So going from manufacturing small quantities of things to large volumes where everybody has to have their own leads to a different economy of scale. So the kind of technology that we're using and the kind of education you need to implement that technology really becomes different. I just can't sit by my grandmother and learn how to run a Singer finishing machine anymore, because now I have a very fine CNC machine tool that is a CNC cutting machine, for example, that is going through a stack of fabric 1.5 feet high to cut garments all at once instead of one at a time. Or I'm making smartphone cases, literally 1,000 at a run, instead of one telephone being cranked out by a whole bunch of people one at a time. I don't know if that brings us to where we need to be, but I hope it's a start.
Well, I think it is. I think that sets up the conflict that occurred between industry and sort of education. And maybe Sam can talk a little bit about this. Sam comes from an interesting place because Sam was in industry. And I don't want to say, you know, which industry. It's all connected up here in different ways. But Sam was in industry and continues to own his own consulting business, but now is in education. So, and I know you and I have many conversations, and even now, education and industry doesn't fit perfectly. The Megaforce board is congealed very well, but when we try to implement things, there's still, you know, rough areas, there's rough edges. So maybe Sam, talk a little bit about the struggle and then maybe give us some good news about how it's being connected.
Yeah, I think the big aspect about being an educator and an educational institution is you're trying to provide your students an opportunity to work with all companies or enter into different fields if needed. And as Joanne alluded to, at one point, when you had companies that specialized in specific trade skills, they needed specific training that just wasn't appropriate at an academic institution where you have to still maintain a broad scope of curriculum. But now as we're going into more of an advanced state where there's becoming this kind of uniformity across industry in terms of using computers, using computer-aided design, automation and this kind of unit, that gives the opportunity more for us addressing a still broad curriculum, but at the same time addressing the specific skill sets and core that all industries need.
Hopefully this is helpful to some people. You know, a lot of us think these things, but not everybody says it. So I feel a little shielded with 4 other people up here to bring these issues up. And, you know, we are all friends and we can all talk about it in an open way and hopefully give a little information and some insight to everyone that's attending today. I hope to leave a couple minutes at the end, if that's okay, for questions and answers, because this is a very distinguished panel that I want people to have the chance to talk to. And so maybe, Gib, if you could talk to us a little bit about what you see as the place of a public-private partnership in this sort of workforce development setting.
Well, I mean, what we've seen so far, and I think the process that we've gone through in the last 2 years, you know, the formative part of it was setting curriculum and setting expectations, some of the things that that Sam just alluded to as problems. It was interesting to see that the Megaforce, the board and the initial group of core partners that we had when we were setting curriculum, we came in with all of our lists, but about 50% or more of our lists had the same exact items on them. So I think that definitely supports what Sam said about what we're looking for in the workplace. The partnership as it goes forward, the curriculum is set, right? The students are out there learning it. The relationship I see right now is one of collaboration, right? How do we get more of the operations into the education process, into the school? And what I mean by that is the hands-on that you can provide there. I think about how critical that is. I went to a very good university, but came out of it not knowing a single thing about how to make anything. It was all textbook coursework, right? So the more of the hands-on, the more of the labs that we can provide the students, doing that either through funding that comes from industry or not, is going to be really critical. The other side of that collaboration is what can we do as from the industry side to support the educational process. We've got things as simple as touring them through our facilities, but also we're looking forward at joint projects, right, where we can consult or provide consultation to students who are doing design projects. Those are things that I see going forward are going to be really important, as well as at some point formalized internship processes. We're developing right now in some critical areas internship processes just internal to our business that we were lacking, and now we have the ability to use that as the baseline for student internships as well.
Thank you. You know, one of the things that Gib alluded to is that before the current advisory board was formed, there was a bunch of companies that were recruited to help us form a chart of competencies. The chart of competencies that after meeting for 8 or 9 months was taken then to the curriculum committee, and the folks here at NJIT provided the senior educational leadership for that curriculum formation that took place from the industry input, along with a community, with Thomas Edison State College, who's a wonderful partner to us in making sure that the program is solid and making sure that it can be implemented in any county that wants it, whether it's the community college level or CTEs, as well as Hudson County was a participant in that curriculum formation so that it would be easily implemented at that CTE level. So it's been really fascinating and interesting to be a part of it. Not always easy, but we continue to look forward to a lot of the people, some of them here. Middlesex is here. Middlesex County Vocational Technical Schools is implementing a dual education program for mechatronics, and we've been talking to them and working with them, and we look forward to continuing to work with them. We were partners on a grant that unfortunately we didn't receive, but we're going to be looking for other grant opportunities coming up because we have a great program. I just want to wrap things up by talking about something that has been mentioned already today by Michael Marchetti, and that's about women in advanced manufacturing and the need to outreach. Fortunately, on our panel, we have a 50-50 split. with the panel, the moderator excluded, of course. But I think that's an important thing to touch on, because a lot of this work doesn't just have to do with implementation of the program and the students taking the courses. It has to do with recruiting them. And Dream It, Do It's a great beginning answer for how to address the problem of people being interested and families supporting their students going into advanced manufacturing. But maybe the ladies on the panel could take a few minutes to close our program by talking about how do we recruit, and I know this is a difficult question, but I know they're up to it. How do we recruit more women into manufacturing, and why is that important?
I think it has to start very early. From the entrepreneurship camps that you'll find in organizations that are being run by 11 and 12-year-olds out there, that and the young women that want to make a difference. And I think that we allow them to grow within our society to actually make those choices to do what they want to do. I know that we have several programs that we feature for women in science at the college, and hope to grow those initiatives as we go along. I think then it's a natural pathway that becomes a lead into the manufacturing area.
I'm going to follow on to what Pat said, and as a woman in manufacturing, and as a mom of 2 daughters, as a matter of fact, I would say that we need to keep encouraging our children, whether they're daughters or sons, to use every talent you have. As a kid, I was always encouraged to experiment, and we don't have time, but I was the one in my family who was always in trouble.
No, we have time.
No, we don't have that much time. Because I was the one who would say, why does this work this way? And I think one of our speakers alluded to the fact that 5th grade is a critical point, because that's when girls start to hear, oh, that's not really something for a girl to do. That's really not feminine. Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because after 5th grade, when you're a mom or dad, you're doing everything. If it needs to be done, you will do it. And we have to keep encouraging our children to use the talents that they have and apply them in the areas in which they are interested. Like I said before, a machine tool, cutting titanium to build an airplane or to build a back brace, doesn't care whether you're a boy or a girl. It only cares that you know what to do. And we are so short of skills that we cannot afford to ignore half the population who has the potential to make those decisions and to use those talents to build the products we depend on every day. And I think we have to keep telling all of our children, girls and boys, yes, you can do it if you put your mind to it. And I'm going to put a plug in here for women in manufacturing. With New Jersey Manufacturing Extension Partnership, Sandvik Cormont, and Lamtech, we have started up a Women in Manufacturing New Jersey chapter. If you'd like more information, please see me later.
We have about 10 minutes left. I want to give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. In the back to the left.
What do you think about manufacturing, especially in healthcare, with a lot of prostheses and joints and also, a lot of surgeries that are being done by robotics? Do you see a tremendous growth for manufacturing in healthcare? And if that is there, then what is the partnership that Healthcare Talent Network can have with you all?
And would you remind us of your name and what you...
I'm Padma Arvind. I'm a director for Healthcare Talent Network from Rutgers University.
Thank you.
So I can tell you this, that the advancement of robotics for surgical implantation is moving like wildfire through the industry. Just recently, my company acquired a robotics company, and what it's capable of doing is amazing. You're holding tolerances that you wouldn't believe you could hold. what it's doing right now, it brings the ability for those surgeries to be done on more complex cases, cases where maybe special solutions would have been required in the past. You can now use more of the, what I'll call production implants, because you can attach them in different ways that you weren't capable of doing. So it's going to increase the overall output, and I think the prevalence and the usage of knee, and primarily knee and hip implants. As far as how that relates to the talent needed, you know, it's a whole area of the business that we are just getting into. Obviously, the company existed before, in our case, but it's not just about the robotic application and the programming, but if you look at the stack up of tolerances, if you look at the machine components that are used in those robots, I'm just learning this now, it's not a part of the business I'm directly involved in, they're incredible machines. If you want to hold 1 millimeter tolerance at the end of a 4-foot arm in a machine that has 3,000 pieces, you've got to have some pretty decent skills going into that. So it's going to definitely drive more of the micro machining type of businesses, and it definitely an automated assembly in some cases might make sense, at least for some of the subcomponents. As far as the relationship to the Talent Network, I have to say I don't really know what the Talent Network has to offer. It's something relatively new to me that I've been hearing about here today and just recently through the team, so I'd love to explore that a little more myself. But I'm sorry I couldn't answer the second half of your question.
It's a great, is it working? It's a great panel. Thank you so much. My name is Jody Bramson. I'm the Youth Program Manager for Middlesex County for WIOA. The question is with the funding and the way things are, they're looking to engage more out-of-school youth that have been disengaged, that are possibly getting high school equivalency diplomas, or out of high school, never had this opportunity before, that are starting in the 5th grades now. And for them, manufacturing is still mentally, even though we are trying to change their minds, you know, production work. And this is being more focused in on in-school youth and a partnership and everything. And I wanted to know how you were going to deal, you know, with maybe re-engaging the out-of-school youth programs.
Well, the answer is it needs to be a societal change. I mean, obviously you target different populations, but part of the major issue that at least I encounter in my work going around the state, is that people have this mindset that you're talking about, this idea that it's dirty, dangerous, that there's no real future in it, that's not a stable job. You know, if you have that mindset and you walk into a place like Stryker or Sandvik and you see how happy the employees are, you talk to them and you talk a little bit about what they're doing, that's what's going to create the change. So in terms of engaging specifically like after school programs and things like that, I think that's part of what we're hoping Dream It, Do It's going to be addressing, which Michael Marchetti spoke about before. I'm
sorry, I don't, maybe I didn't make the question clear. Let me rephrase that. The youth that we're working with, 75% of WIOA eligible youth have to be out of school. They're either dropouts or they're high school graduates with barriers. And what I'm looking for is how the manufacturing field, I want to get them into these programs. We're looking at OJTs, we're looking at different things, but right now, all of these programs are set up only for in-school youth. How do we get them the training to get to the point where we get them to work with you?
Do you work at
I think Gail has an answer for that.
We do partner a lot with Middlesex County VOTEC and Middlesex County College.
Yeah.
I'd like to answer that. Can everyone hear me? Now
I
you
can
can,
hear.
for sure. You've heard mention of a curriculum that got started by the manufacturers and then got refined and integrated into education. But this is a portable, flexible curriculum. And so it is not just for kids in school. We are actually looking at older than your K-12 world? Because the curriculum is the curriculum. You heard Pat talk about that for those who want to go on for an academic degree, some of our schools are converting this non-credit, curriculum is the curriculum, this non-credit experience into academic credit so they can go on if they want. But I want to emphasize that even at every place we're looking for where the talent could come for our state in this area. So you've heard the mention of CTE, Career and Technical Education schools. Well, they have an adult side to their school, not just for our youngsters. And this same, we're working with the adult schools of the CTE programs in our state as well. So give us time and help us, but it isn't just for those who are youngsters. So I hope that addresses what you were
and part of, I guess, the follow-up to that answer is that a student doesn't necessarily have to get an associate's degree or bachelor's degree to immerse themselves in this work. There's certifications that are available. So for instance, we talk about the level 1 Siemens operator certification for mechatronics. We talk about ISA, International Society of Automation certification for operators. So they get a basic understanding of how mechatronics works and how to work that equipment that will automate machinery. So there's different on and off ramps we talk about for this articulation program for career readiness. So thanks for the question. Hopefully that clarified
Can I
things
just
a little
make
bit.
a suggestion too? Like I worked with this summer with over 75 of the youth program through WIOA. And I think if you do outreach with your customized training in your colleges, and then they will contact local businesses, you could take them on tours. I had speakers come in and help them out and talk to those youth. So that's another way of contacting them, because I know you have a big summer programs that we put on for the youth. But I mean, if you outreach with it, like on the community college level with their customized training, they have tons of contacts with manufacturers.
Okay, we have another question back here.
Thanks, Ray. I'm Ellen Brown. I'm with Glass Roots, which is a glass blowing facility here in Newark, but we focus on workforce development as well, especially in scientific glass blowing. And I wanted to follow up on the question about the out-of-school youth. We're targeting young people 18 to 24 who have dropped out of school or are not in school. And I just wanted to get your advice on what you think the 3 or 4 most critical skills for a person who wants to go into manufacturing on a broad scale. Those most critical skills that are going to make them competitive entry-level workers when they're not going to have the opportunity right at the outset to go to community college or to be in a place of higher education. They need to work.
Do you have anybody in particular you'd like to respond to that?
Well, maybe those who are employers would be, could start.
Yeah.
So a couple of things, we tend to talk a lot about engineering. Behind every engineer we hire, there's 20 people making the product. I heard somebody use that number last month, so I'll stick with it. But what we really struggle with is not as much engineering recruitment. We struggle with machinists, tool and die, which is a dying art in the world. Those are the things that we look for. And so to get people into those, we've looked at the curriculum being around just general understanding of manual machining processes. We're not even getting into the higher tech, multi-spindle, high accuracy stuff, just basic understanding of machine tools, basic understanding of dimensioning and tolerancing, right? We find that to be very much of a need right now. A lot of the folks that we hire, we find that we can teach them to run the machine rather quickly. We can teach them some of the basics of it. But when it comes to inspecting and getting down into fourth decimal inspection and things like that. It's not a familiar area for folks. So if they come out with a better understanding of GD&T, machine tooling, basic tool and die type knowledge, they're going to be several steps ahead of your average applicant.
Joanne, did you want to add anything?
I would just add on to what Gib said and say, would I be safe in saying what we would consider basic math skills? Decimals, fractions, the ability to read a measuring tool, whether it's a ruler, a micrometer, or work with CMM.
Yeah.
So I would say basic good basic math skills, communication skills are imperative.
So the question was, what is CMM?
Coordinate measuring machinery. So it's a large computerized machines that measure to a high degree of accuracy and precision, going back to GDT.
Yeah. And it's not as much there about being able to program it or understand the machine as to be able to interpret the output of the machine to a quality acceptance criteria that's placed in front of someone.
And I would just add one other thing, and Joanne alluded to it, is she says communication, but it's soft skills. All of the employers across the board always talk about soft skills, like basic stuff like showing up on time, learning to communicate in written and verbal form, how to work as part of a team. I mean, for many of us, we just kind of assume it, but you can't assume it anymore. And I just want to follow up on what our manufacturers say is important to them as well. Thanks for the questions. I think we're, one more question? Okay.
Hi, Sean McDonald from Middlesex County Vocational and Technical Schools. I wanted to follow up, actually you touched upon some of the skills that you're looking for, such as machinists and things like that too. So my related question is the fact that what can be done about helping teacher recruitment and transitioning from the workforce to teaching? I think that's a critical issue that's out there too. We've advertised a number of jobs, even in our machining program, our welding program, to entice someone to come out of the industry to take a large pay cut, to go through an alternate route program and pay for that as well. You know, we have a very limited pool of candidates that really want to, jump into this profession unless they truly, want to come into teaching and see all that too. So it's definitely an issue here. We can build a program. We've been very, very fortunate in our district. In our Allied Health Academy, we've have a doctor and registered nurses teaching. In our STEM Academy, we've got civil engineers and computer engineers. We've been very, very lucky. We've actually come across a person that's an industrial engineer that was educated right here at NJIT. So we have been lucky on that. But we're really sucking wind on seeing those resumes come in for many of our other jobs that could help and collaborate and really give some of those other skills.
Sam, how did NJIT lure you away from industry?
Well, I mean, I think one of the big aspects is the desire. I think the person themselves has to want to actually give back. And I think that if you establish systems like we have here, a very good adjunct system. So actually in our department especially, we go out to a lot of industries, including Stryker and other places, and try to ask people to come and adjunct for us. And once they see that, sometimes they say, hey, I would like to do this in a full-time capacity in some sense as well. But also providing them opportunities such as NJIT has provided me to continue their industrial work, industrial collaboration. As Ian alluded to, I have my own practice, so I keep my engineering ties with industry that I can bring back to the classroom as well. So I think it's that kind of balance that certain individuals are looking for between those components. But it does take someone that wants to do it. And I would like to add too, I'm not so sure about pay scale in industry as well. I think there have been a lot of changes in industry as well. So you may be more competitive than you think as well in terms of pay.
My suggestion is if the school system's interested in attracting people, let's work together on it. I mean, we're all looking to accomplish the same things. If there's other educators here, I encourage you to work with us. We're very open and flexible, and hopefully many of you have found that. And so we encourage the collaboration. You have my information here if you need. It's our one-pager, our flyer is in the handouts. If you want more information, please come see me afterward. And our panelists are so gracious. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure they'd be willing to talk to you afterward as well. Thank you all for being here with us today.
Thank you.